For the first one, they're capturing land value and unlocking dead capital. The REMOP is a revenue mobilization program. This one basically is a tax administration system which automates the entire process. The major source of revenue for city councils, I think in Malawi, much of it comes from the property rates. So the REMOP had 6 steps or stages. First, discovery, that's where the properties were registered. And secondly, it was the assessment. And this is where now a tool called the point-based method was deployed. The traditional way of valuing properties in Malawi is a market valuation. The point-based system is a departure from it. In a positive environment where the property is, then it gains more points. So it was fourth-fold increase in terms of the number of properties which would be subjected to property tax. The approach also helped in billing, automation of the systems in terms of billing. Demand notices for the city rates were sent automatically, and through that, the billing system was improved. Most of the property owners, they ended up really coming forward to pay the taxes, which was not really traditional. And also the collection of the taxes, this program brought improvements in that. So that's the first part, the capturing of land value and unlocking the dead capitals. Mzuzu has 200, and by 2018, it had 221,000 residents. But in the outskirts of it, you find that almost 1.7 million. Local government accept the evaluation of properties. In the valuation of the properties, REMOP was used, but you find that this was against the normal rule, because the Local Government Act, what it recognizes is the market valuation, based on the capital value or rental value. The other reform was the building of social contract with the city residents. In the first place, that there is no legal framework to enforce penalties on the city rates. Usually, they don't have the trust in their city councils or local governments due to perceived corruption and the general mismanagement of public finances. So by itself, it's really an issue which has to be corrected. And also introducing electronic payment systems, that has been the way of trying to improve that social contract, or to bring social capital in its place. Also reducing tax agencies, bringing visible service delivery, hoped to build the trust. The last reform area is the enhancing the capacity of city financial and investment management. There have been a lot of innovations which have been taking place in the country. For instance, the electronic e-ticketing or electronic billing. Zomba City Council started using the electronic billing in the market, and most of the councils now have emulated the same, including Mzuzu. The National Local Government Finance Committee under Ministry of Finance and the local government also brought a performance-based grants as an incentive for the councils. From 2014, there's been an encouragement of the councils to come up with revenue enhancement plans. That reform brought a lot of reform, that because of the competition which was generated, the performance-based grants, most of the councils tried really to grab that. There have been efforts to bring in a lot of improvements, and also bringing transparency and accountability. Those are the really 3 areas of reform. The key lessons and success factors, the first one is flexibility of small cities. Being a small city, it has been a bit easier for it to embrace reforms. You know, when the institution is too big, there's a lot of bureaucracy. So Mzuzu really had an advantage that it is a small city. People become very innovative and think outside the box, and that's why it brought up the REMOP without attracting a lot of national political concern. Secondly, also motivated and well-trained staff. The new people, the new staff became very motivated and they were well trained and they embraced the remop because they wanted it to improve things. The money, because it was already available, it was easier to implement the reforms. The remop was a cheap tool, and because of that, it outweighed the market valuation that is usually more expensive. Remop provided an opportunity whereby is a system built to fit capacity. Another lesson is automation of revenue systems. Apart from valuation of the property taxes, GIS, Geographical Information System, was used to identify new buildings which were being erected or developed in the city. The GIS was instrumental in including the informal sector. 70% of the city population are in the informal sector, in the unplanned sector. The GIS, it embraced the informal sector, that the council came up with like special rates and flat rates where they charge. So at least it maximized the collection of property rates. And also the automation of revenue systems, as I mentioned, that the demand notices were being sent electronically, shows that automation is a way to go. The other also lesson is the importance of co-generating reforms with all stakeholders. You needed to create work teams together and avoid exclusions. And that's why in Mzuzu there was a My City, My Responsibility campaign, and that really helps, to build the social compact or social trust. One aspect is that in Malawi you have DFLA, that is Development Fund for Local Authority, which is a tool for building creditworthiness. The World Bank in 1993 set up this as a window for financing local authorities. The council cannot get external debt, commercial locally or even internationally, because it's only the Minister of Finance has to approve. That's why this DFLA was formed with the initial capital, seed capital coming from World Bank. It was to allow to be like a development fund for the councils where they could access cheaper loans. Now it has been made independent, and this is one institution which is at least building the creditworthiness of the councils. And also the rural bias. There's really a need really to refocus the rural bias. The urbanization in most of these cities in Malawi, it's running up. Urban growth is 5% annual growth rate, and that's very high. Eventually, more people they are leaving the rural areas, they are going to urban areas. Eventually, the urban areas, if they are left unattended to, they will lack infrastructure, livability, and productivity will not be there. Emphasis should be on urban development as well. Our cities should grow in a proper manner. There's really to the councils to keep on improving or increasing on source revenue, also improving the social contract. People equate paying of tax to service delivery. So needed really to improve on that one so that the people can have trust in the councils when it is collecting the taxes. Increasing tax base is really very important. I mentioned already about the enabling economic growth. It's really important. Like in Zuzu, it's an area whereby industries could be processing industry in terms of fish, in terms of coffee, that economic growth has to be enabled. And by doing that, then you find that people will end up having employment, and the issues of taxes wouldn't be an issue. Partnerships have to be enhanced, and doing things together. It's really very critical because it helps smoothen out issues which people would disagree on.